speaking of AEW, you had the opportunity to work a few matches there, specifically against Paul Wight, which is what I'm interested in, or as I call him, Tall Paul.
Yes.
How was that experience? I mean, I know that a lot of those matches were kind of abbreviated, but I mean that's one that almost everybody that's in wrestling right now grew up watching Paul Wight because he's been everywhere.
Yeah, that is a crazy story just in general of how it came together. Um, so that was the first Arthur Ashe show.
Mhm.
So there was like 20,000 people there,
I was
which is
there.
oh, were you?
Yeah, I
That's
was there.
yeah, it was wild. So like the day before the show, MJF called me and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" And I was like, "Nothing." Why? He's like, "Can you be in New York?" And I was like, "Sure." He was like, I'm probably gonna get him in trouble, but he was like, I told them you were in New York already and they need guys. And I was like, okay. So I went spray tanned. I took a shower, spray tanned, packed my bag, and just drove overnight to New York. And I slept on Ethan Page's hotel room floor. And I woke up the next morning and I was having the free continental breakfast for a room that I didn't have at the hotel. Thank you, Tony Khan. Uh, but I was eating and Aubrey, the ref, came up to me and she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, hey, do you know what you're doing today?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "You're wrestling Paul Wight." I was like, "Shut the fuck up." I was like, "No,
Yeah.
I'm not." And she was like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, okay." And like that's literally how it happened. So shout out MJF. He's always looking out for me. He's the best. And yeah, so it was so cool. Like Paul's great, is super good brother. Everybody at AEW is super nice. Like I don't have anything bad to say about my time there. They were so good to me, and Tony was so nice and very he was just there, like you could go up and talk to him. Like a lot of times I would just stand in the gorilla position and kind of watch him direct the show because I'm very interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He was always cool with me standing there, because it's just an extra. I'm kind of in the way, but he'd let me sit there. I kind of watched him do things and super cool environment. Like everybody was really rad. Like, and I got to wrestle some, my childhood, you know,
I've always been told, like, because I'll try to ask and bug everybody, like, what's the line of thinking behind this, and this, and I was always told you can tell, like, what they think of repeat people who are there based on who they're booked against on those types of shows. So you're facing Matt Hardy, you're facing Paul Wight, you're facing John Moxley, people like that. It's like, well, that gives you a pretty good indication of who wants to work with them, what they value of them. It's like the old Sean Waltman test too. They would say, he would be like, this guy's the shits, don't bring him back. And if you saw them back and they had worked with him, well, that's a pretty good indicator. So I thought it was a pretty good indicator of how they viewed you based on who you were booked against.
for sure. I got great matches there. Like I got to wrestle Dante, Darby, Kingston, Moxley, Matt Hardy, like the Dark Order. Like I think they knew that I wasn't gonna hurt anybody and that I'm professional because a lot of times they're meeting these guys day of, so it's hard to sometimes you don't know. So even like one of the times I was in a match and like all the guys in Dark Order knew who I was, but then like the other two in the match, like people didn't really know who they were. Especially one, his name's Andrew Palace. He's from Pittsburgh. And I remember just telling the guys in Dark Order, like, hey, it's cool. He's good. Like, don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah.
he's not gonna hurt you guys. So like I think that comes up a little bit. So yeah, I always got put in good spots. Like I wrestled. Well, I remember the one time I wrestled Danny Garcia at the Dark Tapings in Orlando, and before I went out, like Tony Khan got up and goes, "Hey man, like you guys have never wrestled each other." I was like, "Yeah, no, we haven't." He's like, "I was trying to find a match of you guys wrestling on the Indies." He's like, "Couldn't find one." I was like, "I couldn't believe that you guys have never worked." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's why I booked this match. Like, have fun." I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." So like, this is a really cool environment. Like, very, very, I very much enjoyed my time there.